Welcome to the InCites podcast by UNSW Law Society. The production team would like to begin by acknowledging the Gadigal people, the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast is made, and pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging.
Welcome to the first episode of 2022. We're your hosts for this year. So I'm Adin. I am second year Commerce and Law.
I'm Susan and I am third year Commerce and Law as well.
Yep, and I'm Tracey. I'm a fourth year Commerce and Law, majoring in taxation.
All right, splendid. So let's get us started on the questions. So we posted an Instagram story a while back and we got some really interesting questions that we're looking to answer today. So our first question is, what has been your favorite part about being in LawSoc? And I guess I shoot the question over to you, Tracey.
Yeah, so I think LawSoc in general, because we're a constituent body of law students, we have a lot of different events catering to law students. But most importantly, I think the thing that has been most useful to me is the competitions. So the mediations, negotiations, all of these different skills competitions that are offered by LawSoc and that are sponsored by different law firms as well. Those have been really useful to me personally. So that's my favorite part about being in LawSoc. And then in terms of being part of the executive, I started off as a marketing director in 2020, and then I was an international media director, and now I'm a podcasting director. Last year and this year, they sort of overlap in terms of working on the podcast. So that has been a really exciting time for me because the podcast is so new. And also as a marketing director, you get to apply a lot of your creative skills to create fun event covers. So that, I guess, is my favorite part of being a part of the executive.
I think my favorite part is more so the social aspect. Like, obviously the actual involvement, Tracey's have already mentioned, it's quite useful, but also the people you meet are also awesome. Whether it's for like activities, like there's the Law Plus program that I'm involved in. There's also like different events and things like that where you get to meet your cohort. I think that's been really fun in terms of just broadening out who you speak to outside of the classroom, because at the end of the day, you don't really get any other chances to meet the rest of your cohort if you don't go to these things.
No, I definitely agree. No, I grabbed my phone. I definitely agree with both of you in that last year, skills was really important for me, but also the LawSoc events were really good. I didn't quite make it to the law lunch party this year, but the law party at the Carter, where I saw you, yeah, that was pretty good. That was a pretty good time. And it's really interesting because you see, 24 people you're stuck with in the same room, answering questions, being like sweaty, and then these same people are, in the clubs, partying it up with like the entire law cohort. So it's really interesting to see. And I guess, yeah, that would be the one thing I can pinpoint about being the best part. But in terms of the exec team, I'm in my second year, and I don't believe you can join the exec team in your first year. I believe applications open up term 3. But it was really good for me in terms of meeting people in my cohort and meeting people especially older than me who have been through more things than me, and they kind of can give me advice about coursework, about life, about managing law in general. So I definitely find that really helpful. And these are also, great people as well that I did become friends with. I'm not just using them for their resources. But yeah, that's probably my favorite part about being in Law Society. So I guess we'll move on to the second question.
There's a question about what event are you most looking forward to?
Well, for me, I think it would definitely be the Law Ball, and that's up to our lovely events team to organize. Due to COVID, I don't think. Last year we didn't have a Law Ball, so I unfortunately missed out. But I did hear it's, a really good time, really great people from people years above me who obviously did go to Law Ball. So I guess that's what I'm most keen for. What about you guys?
I think I'm most excited for the law cruise with USID's Law Society, just because, again, you get to meet a different range of people. And I think there's always that ongoing debate about which law school is better. But going to these social events, you really do see that everyone's really much just the same. They're just there for a good time. So yeah, that's exciting. And thank you to Events for organising that.
Adin, since you're so excited about Law Ball, who are you taking?
You know, unfortunately, you know how it goes with law. You're really busy with readings, so
What he's saying is, if anyone wants to hit him up on the Instagram DMs, they're open.
Yep. You can DM the LawSoc account, and I'll make sure I'll read the messages. So I guess our next question is, it's muting tips ? But I guess we can extrapolate that to other skills competitions. So obviously you guys are more well versed than me. So do you guys have any tips for skills and muting competitions for the viewers at home?
In terms of mooting, I personally don't have that much experience, so I wouldn't be well placed to give out tips. But we do have on the LawSoc website a lot of resources, so videos and mooting tips that will be on the website. And of course, you can always ask if you're unsure. Anyone who's actually done mooting, I'm sure they'll be more than happy to give you some tips on that. In terms of other skills, so skills competitions like negotiations and mediations, tips for that, I think, is to be prepared and to have a good plan. So do discuss with your partner beforehand about what you want to do in terms of allocating your roles, but do make sure that you have a very good structured plan so that when you're going through the competition, you at least have something to lean back on if you find that you're going on a tangent.
I think also this would probably apply later in the year. I found that looking at or watching the semi-finals or the finals, they usually put out a link, or you can go and watch in person. That way you have a model of what is good as well, so that in future competitions you can apply those skills to your own competitions as well.
Yeah, definitely. So back last year and first year, I did every skills kind of competition offered, and I guess the biggest piece of advice I could give is be prepared, but also have fun. I guess a lot of people get into their own head and they treat it like an actual court case, but it really is just university students trying to get better. But also off that, I believe Susan judged me and my partner's first client interview back last year, and she described it as the funniest thing she's ever witnessed. So I guess that shows how inexperienced we were, and I guess we had too much fun, I guess, leading up to it. So it's really, don't take it too seriously, but also take it seriously enough so you gain something out of it. Yeah. I guess that's the biggest advice I could give. So going off of that, from the same person, we have a question, and that is watermelon or mango. So I guess I kind of want to pose that question to you guys. What are you guys' thoughts about that?
Well, I personally know that Adin will die on the watermelon hill, but I like mango. I prefer mango.
I actually don't really have a preference. I don't really
Really?
eat fruit much. So
That's not something you should admit to.
I know. Just exposing myself a little. I guess watermelon, because more bang for your buck, right?
It is, exactly. It is.
Yeah.
I'm not, mango's nice, and I'm not trying to, rag on mango, but really it's a food, it's out of my price range. It's a food I can't afford. Watermelon is, far cheaper, and it's the same taste. But I guess back onto law questions.
We have one that says, how can we make the most of our law school or law degree?
Oh, all right. Well, I guess taking every opportunity. I guess you look at the emails every single week. You look at the job boards. It's a large volume of information. And yes, and you look at off the record on the Instagram stories, but it's a lot of information. And I guess I understand that it can get overwhelming, but you have to realize every notification is an opportunity. And it's up to you to kind of look at something that you're interested in and kind of take that step. And I know everyone says, the law job market is extremely saturated, and I can't really speak on that because I am unemployed. But I feel like it's really about taking the opportunity to find out what you love about law and what you want to get out of your degree. And I guess that's the biggest part about getting something out of your law degree, is figuring out what you want to get out and kind of taking every step possible to try to put that into action.
I think also really important is not to isolate yourself. I know going through law school can be a little bit isolating when everyone's just I have to do my readings, or I have to study, or whatever. But yeah, do look at your emails. The brief gets sent out every Monday. Have a flick through. There's lots of, as I said before, events and things like that. And I think the other thing is the jobs board is actually quite useful. So once you're in second year or up, I think you have a good basis of legal understanding, and a lot of companies would kind of consider you. So do apply even if you don't think you're fully qualified yet, because it's also good to just get your like resume building and cover letter building skills up. So
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that, Susan. I also think like if you want to make the most out of your degree, it's to look for opportunities that may not be directly in the legal sphere, but have applicable skills. So do be open to different opportunities that may not be the thing that you currently want right now, but if you think that you can apply your skills or gain some skills from doing it, then definitely do that. And LawSoc has so many different things, from events to skills competitions, that you can take advantage of and really get the most out of your degree.
So going off the last question, the next question is about developing basic vital law student skills and any coursework tips.
So maybe we'll do an episode on that later, but I guess we can kind of give a few tips from our experiences. For me, it's basically class participation. That's the name of the game. It's 10%, and people don't realize the gravity of that. And I don't realize, I still don't, in that I don't really put my hand up, but it's like, it's 10% of your entire course to just talk, you know? So I feel like even though it's daunting, and I get that there's a stigma that all, you know, law students are extroverted, which is not always the case. And even if you're shy, I guess trying to answer the questions is really the easiest way and most surefire way of getting free marks. And I guess that would be my biggest advice.
The other one that's really important to get class participation is do your readings, but kind of know when to read and when not to read, because you are getting exposed to a large amount of information, and sometimes, as you all would have found out, like it's just impossible to read every single line. So even just skimming, like sometimes what I do if I'm running out of time, I just look at one case, and then like at least there is something to talk about during class. So don't skip your readings altogether. Don't give up on them. One very helpful tip I was given is like reading 2 pages is better than reading no pages. So at least go in with some sort of idea of what's going on.
Yeah. Or you could start by reading the headings. Depends on what sort of textbook you're using, because it will vary by course. So some of the textbooks are structured in a way that's just paragraphs after paragraphs. But if you have something that is more structured, for example, contracts, you'll have headings in your textbook. And if you find that you really run out of time, start off by reading the headings first. So at least you know what content you'll be facing up against. And then if you do have more time, then go into a bit more detail under those headings. But that's if you're really, really strapped for time. Personally, I like going through everything. So even though you might not think that the whole case is relevant, to read through from top to bottom is probably personally the best way to get through everything. But yes, do stay on top of your readings. Otherwise, you'll feel very overwhelmed by the time finals come around.
Tracey, do you have any tips for like how to get through all the readings?
Not really. I don't think I have tips to like get through it faster. I don't think there's any particular shortcut. I know that some people use notes, and it works for some people, but it doesn't work for me. So I can't rely on other people's notes. To get through readings, I guess, start with the headings first, and then perhaps read the facts. So at least you understand, if it's a case, you know what the facts are, and then you move on to the things that are most important about that particular case. Like, why is that case extracted in particular? What is it that it adds to the topic that the lecturers want you to look at? So that would be like my tips for reading, I guess.
The next question is, what does a podcasting director do? And I guess it's pretty self-explanatory. We do the podcast. So what does that involve? Us speaking here today, but we also interview people with different disciplines of law, different law students, people who have experience, with the intention of kind of creating content that's tailored towards law students. And I guess maybe you guys can expand on that. That was pretty bare bones.
If you're asking in terms of what does the director position entail, then we cover a lot of things. Like, we do the editing and the hosting and writing up the questions or the script. So whatever you listen to in the podcast is written by us, apart from the guest answers. So that's what we do as an overview. We also brainstorm things for the episodes as well. So everything to do with the podcast is thought about by us, and we liaise with the sponsors so that we can get someone from the firm, if it's a sponsor firm, to come and guest on our episodes.
Yeah, so the floor is open. If you have any sort of ideas of what you want to see from us as well, just feel free to DM us on Instagram or email us. I think our emails are on the LawSoc website if you want to have a look there. We're always open for ideas as well, because we want to make this podcast for you guys.
So we have some exciting things banked up. Spoilers. And they're coming out in the following weeks. So we currently have an episode on the way with the Criminal Defence Lawyers Australia, hosted by the wonderful Tracey. And that is with Jimmy Singh, the principal lawyer there. And I believe they talked about
Criminal defence. And larceny.
Yeah. And we also have an episode with the presidents of UNSW Law Society, hosted by Susan. And so they had a chat about student life and the vibes. And and we also have one episode coming out hosted by me with the Vice President of Social Justice and the Vice President of Public Interest Careers. And we talked about
student life. What their portfolios.
We talked about student life as well, but different aspects of student life. So it's worth watching both of them. And are we talking about fruit? So you really consider the kind of price to tastiness ratio. And I think that watermelon strikes the perfect balance in that when it's on sale, $1 a kilo at Coles, and that's the lowest I've seen it go. You'd be hard pressed to find better value than that. You really are.
Yeah, like what about other fruit though? Like what's the most, I guess, economical fruit to buy?
An apple. But no one likes apples.
Yeah, I don't
It's
like
really
apples.
But I guess watermelons, it's not so much about the fruit, but it's about the people you're with, because it's a sharing fruit. It really is. And it's only out in summer, so I feel like I always have a good time when there's watermelons around. So I feel like I associate that feeling with, what am I saying?
Like mangoes are a scam as well, because nobody wants to eat the center.
It's half seed. Yeah.
I'm really hating on them. I'm not hating on mangoes. I love mangoes. It's just like I can't be bothered to eat the
You
middle.
can't. It's hard. There's a lot of
effort.
that
And like
goes
to
into
cut it, it's more. Oh, I guess cutting a watermelon is also like you gotta use your big arm strength if it's a big boy, or big watermelon.
Thank you for listening to InCites by UNSW Law Society. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast so that you don't miss out on any future episodes.